If you live in a blue state with a dominant Democratic Party, your party is less progressive, and here's why. This also plays into why I feel the way that I do about the 2026 midterms. California, where I live, has a Democratic supermajority. So you'd think the poor would be really well supported here and we'd have things like universal health care, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We have a huge wealth gap and it's getting worse. In my former life, I used to work for the realtors in government affairs. And this is historically a pretty conservative group. If you're new here, I've changed a bit over the years. Now, the realtors aren't as conservative as they used to be, but they still lean a bit right. But even that's about as far right as any big special interest will go other than the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, who I generally still agree with on Prop 13, by the way, but we'll get to that another time. See, Republicans have so little power that nobody wants to have anything to do with them. And when this happens, special interests flood into the dominant party and start their work. All of the business groups, for instance, pretty much work in sync to get moderate Democrats elected. And they've been pretty successful, as progressive politicians are few and far between here. Look at the governor's race, for instance. There's not a single progressive with a chance in hell of winning. Now, there are a ton of left-wing interest groups in this state. But unlike the business groups, they don't typically work together and they stay in their lane. The only ones that have really been successful are environmental groups, and that's honestly caused a whole nother range of problems in areas like housing. California is really only doing well by Republican standards, and that's how the wealthy are doing because this is the home of Silicon Valley and Irvine. We're failing in almost every other respect because we're settling for just any Democrat. And now we get to my approach for the elections this year. As I've said many times, a Democratic majority in the House and even in the Senate really does nothing for us. 57 senators voted to remove Trump from office last time around, and here he is again. We'll just get more hearings, no action. What we need are high-character resistance leaders. And progressives should be putting a lot of their focus on taking over these supermajority blue states, because this is also where all the money in Democratic politics is. Fighting here would in turn fight those corporate interests that we're trying to rid ourselves of. And in these states, especially here in California after Prop 50, you don't have to worry about a Republican, so you can run as progressive as you want, even here in Orange County. The Israel lobbies are incredibly powerful in states like California and New York, within the Democratic Party. They put on a good act like Gavin Newsom, but it's just that, an act. Gavin Newsom's ex-wife was with Don Jr. These people are all part of one big swamp. Gavin and most other Democrats in this state would be Republican if it was a Republican state. Here in Orange County, for instance, we've got 3 so-called Democrats in Derek Tran, Dave Min, and Mike Levin. But all 3 of them are bought and paid for and really have no core beliefs. They all voted for the Lake and Riley Act, for God's sake. I do feel bad for the rank and file because they do work really hard and are just sold out time and time again. But they're not realizing that and in turn attacking progressives. But you've got to look at the people who keep losing. I've been in the game, and these people just love being in the limelight. We've got to make them pay this year and get more than 5 good leaders in Congress. Many of you get upset with me for not putting 100% of my focus into attacking Trump, and even though 95% of my focus is there, but we can't defeat Trump unless we put some of our focus here. You actually have to have an opposition, and we don't have one. We just have actors. Draining this swamp helps us rid ourselves of fascism. James Tallarico, Cori Bush, AOC, Summer Lee, these are the kind of people that we need. We just don't have many of them. 2 of those aren't even in right now. If you're a progressive and you're in a district where there are no other Democrat names on the ballot or progressive independent names on the ballot, which I would actually prefer, consider putting yourself on there. So you lose, at least you take up a few resources. New York is on its way with Mamdani and AOC. But man, in California, we've got a long way to go, and it's probably because this is the hub of AIPAC. The Israel lobby here goes back to the mafia. And don't say, oh, Tony, this is never going to happen. I was once part of a party where they said that conservatives would never take over, and they did. It doesn't take long. It just takes some courageous leadership.